They told me I needed a break. My sister, Jenna, swore the trip to Miami would be nothing but sunshine and aquariums for my 8-year-old son. Logan. She promised me it would be so much fun, but the moment their plane touched down, the silence from my phone grew heavy. I didn't realize the vacation was actually a trap, a golden cage paid for by my ex-husband's family to turn a temporary visit into a permanent goodbye. The rain in Maplebridge had a specific smell, like wet slate and old pine needles. It was a scent that grounded me. I stood in the kitchen of my 2-bedroom bungalow, the coffee pot gurgling its final, sputtering breaths, and watched the drizzle slick the window pane. It was 6:45 in the morning. The lunchbox on the counter was already packed turkey sandwich. Crusts cut off, apple slices soaked in lemon juice to keep them from browning, and a juice box. My marketing portfolio for the 9 o'clock meeting sat next to it, the edges perfectly aligned with the granite tile. This was my life, organized, predictable, safe. I took a sip of the dark roast and felt the warmth travel down my chest. I was 32 years old, and I had fought tooth and nail for this quiet boringness. After the divorce, after the years of feeling like an imposter in a life that cost more than my parents made in a decade. This little house with its creaky floorboards and the small marketing firm where I worked felt like a fortress. Mom. The shout came from the living room, followed by the thud of a soccer ball hitting the drywall. Logan, my 8-year-old son, was a ball of kinetic energy wrapped in dinosaur pajamas. I set my mug down, checking the coaster first, and walked into the living room. No ball in the house. Low, I said, though my voice lacked any real bite. I caught the ball on the rebound. Breakfast is on the table. Oatmeal or eggs? Whatever Aunt Jenna wants, he chirped, scrambling up from the rug. I suppressed a sigh. Of course, Aunt Jenna. My younger sister was currently asleep in the guest room, or what used to be my home office before she lost the lease on her apartment 3 weeks ago. Jenna was 29, charming, beautiful, and a complete hurricane. She was between nursing contracts, which was her polite way of saying she had quit another job because the charge nurse was mean to her. She is still sleeping, I told him, ruffling his hair. It is not even 7 yet. Jenna is never sleeping when there is fun to be had, as if summoned by his adoration. The guest door creaked open. Jenna emerged, wrapped in a fluffy pink robe I had bought her for Christmas 2 years ago. Her blonde hair a messy halo that somehow looked stylish rather than unkempt. Did someone say fun? She asked, her voice raspy with sleep but bright. See, Logan looked at me with triumph. I felt that familiar pang, the dull, heavy stone in my gut that I had been carrying since we were children. I was the mom. I was the one who said no to sugar before 8 in the morning. I was the one who made sure homework was done and teeth were brushed. I was the rule maker. Jenna was the rule breaker, and in the eyes of an 8-year-old boy, the rule breaker was always the hero. Morning, Jen, I said, moving back to the kitchen to start the eggs. Jenna scooped Logan up in a hug, swinging him around until he giggled. You are so boring. Sadie, she teased, winking at me over his shoulder. Let the kid live a little. It is Friday. It is Thursday, I corrected automatically, and he has a spelling test today. Details, details. Jenna flopped onto a kitchen stool. Watching me crack eggs into the pan, I loved my sister. I really did. But having her in my space, disrupting the carefully calibrated ecosystem I had built for Logan and myself, was wearing me thin. I looked at her, at the way the morning light caught the easy curve of her smile, and I wondered for the 1,000th time why everything seemed to come so easily to her. While I had to plan and structure and worry just to keep my head above water, it was a dynamic our parents, Marla and Everett, had cemented decades ago. Sadie is the responsible one, they would say, handing me the checkbook to balance when I was 12. Jenna is the sensitive one. We have to be gentle with Jenna. Being the responsible one meant I was the safety net. Being the sensitive one meant Jenna was the trapeze artist, soaring through the air, confident that if she fell, I would be there to catch her. I plated the eggs. Eat, I said to Logan, We have to leave in 20 minutes. My drive to work was my only solitude. The windshield wipers beat a steady rhythm as I navigated the familiar streets of Maplebridge. It was a good town. Not wealthy, not poor, just solid. It was the kind of place where people knew your name but respected your privacy. It was the opposite of the world I had married into. Drew Hale. Even thinking his name caused a phantom ache in my left ring finger. When I met Drew, I thought I had won the lottery. He was handsome, charming, and came from a family with old money, the kind of money that whispered rather than shouted. But whispers can be vicious. His father, Carson Hale, was the source of the rot. Carson was a man who viewed people as assets or liabilities. I was a liability. I was a state school graduate with a marketing degree and parents who worked blue-collar jobs. I was, in Carson's eyes, a genetic and social error that his son had made in a moment of weakness. I remembered a dinner party, 3 years into our marriage. When Logan was just a baby, we were at Carson's estate, a sprawling mansion that felt more like a museum than a home. I had complimented the rug in the library. Carson had looked at me over the rim of his crystal Scotch glass. His eyes were a pale, icy blue. It is a 16th century Isfahan. "Sadie," he had said, his voice smooth and condescending, "it costs more than your father will earn in his lifetime. Please do not spill your wine on it." Drew had said nothing. He never said anything. He just swirled his drink and looked away. That was the moment I knew my marriage was over. Even if it took me 2 more years to sign the papers, Drew was weak, and Carson was a predator who saw his grandson as a piece of property to be managed, not a child to be loved. Getting custody had been a war. Carson had hired the best sharks in the state, but I had been the primary caregiver. I had the documentation, I had the stability, and Drew, to his credit, had not wanted to fight as dirty as his father. He wanted his freedom more than he wanted to be a full-time father. So, we settled. I got Logan. Drew got visitation that he rarely used, and a hefty child support payment that Carson likely paid from a petty cash account. I parked my 10-year-old sedan in the office lot and took a deep breath. I was safe here. Carson Hale was 3 states away. Logan was happy. I was doing it. I was doing it all on my own. The day passed in a blur of spreadsheets and client calls. By the time I got home, the rain had stopped, leaving the air crisp and cold. I walked through the front door, expecting the usual chaos of Lego bricks on the floor or the TV blaring cartoons. Instead, the house was strangely quiet. "Hello," I called out, dropping my keys in the bowl. In here, Jenna's voice came from the living room. I walked in to find them huddled together on the sofa, illuminated by the glow of Jenna's iPad. Logan looked up, his eyes wide with excitement. "Mom, Aunt Jenna found sharks." "Sharks?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. "On the iPad." "Real sharks," Jenna said, jumping up. She grabbed my arm and pulled me down to sit between them. "Look, Sadie, just look at this." On the screen was a photo of a pristine white beach, turquoise water, and a smiling family splashing in the waves. The banner across the top read, "Coral Bay Resort Spa. Last-minute sunshine deals. I found super discount flights to Miami," Jenna said, her words tumbling out fast. "And this resort in Coral Bay, which is basically right next door, has a cancellation special. It is 70% off. Sadie, 70. I felt my stomach tighten. I don't know. "Jen, wait, listen." She pressed. "They have a massive aquarium. They have a swim with dolphins program. They have a kids club that is rated 5 stars. I checked the dates. We could leave tomorrow and be back by Tuesday. Logan only misses 2 days of school." I looked at Logan. He was practically vibrating. "Please, Mom, please, I want to see the sharks. Aunt Jenna said the water is warm like a bath." I looked at Jenna. Her face was flushed with the thrill of the hunt. She loved this, the spontaneity, the deal, the adventure. "Jenna," I said, keeping my voice low, "I cannot just take off work and flights to Florida, even with a discount. That is money I do not have budgeted. I will pay for my ticket," Jenna insisted. And I have some savings left from the last contract. I want to treat him. Sadie, look at him. When was the last time he saw the ocean 2 years ago? I said, with me. We went to the shore. That was a cold, gray beach in October. Jenna scoffed. This is Miami. This is Coral Bay. This is real tropics. I stood up, needing distance from the glowing screen and the hopeful faces. It is not just the money. Jenna, it is Drew. I have to get permission to take him out of state. It is in the decree. So call him. Jenna threw her hands up. He never takes his visitation anyway. Why would he care? Because it is about control. I thought, but I did not say it. I walked into the kitchen and started pulling ingredients for dinner out of the fridge. My mind was racing. Part of me wanted to say yes. God, I was tired. The idea of sitting on a beach while someone else entertained Logan was intoxicating, but the responsible part of me, the part that had kept us safe, was screaming, no, I can't, I said firmly. Turning back to them, it is too sudden, it is too expensive, and I do not trust a deal that looks that good. Jenna's face fell. Logan looked like I had just canceled Christmas. You never want to have fun, Logan mumbled, sliding off the couch and stomping toward his room. Logan, I called after him, but the door slammed shut. I turned on Jenna. You should not have showed him that before talking to me. That was unfair. I was just excited. Sadie Jenna stood up, crossing her arms. You are so uptight. You treat this house like a prison camp. Schedule. 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 When do you just live? When I can afford to, I snapped. Which is why I go to work every day while you sleep until noon. The words hung in the air, sharp and mean. I regretted them instantly. Jenna flinched, her eyes filling with tears. I am sorry, she whispered. I wanted to do something nice. I wanted to be the cool aunt. I know I am a mess. Sadie, you do not have to remind me. I sighed, the anger draining out of me, replaced by the familiar guilt. I am sorry. Jen, I am just stressed. It has been a long week. Later that evening, after a silent dinner where Logan refused to look at me, my phone buzzed on the coffee table. It was a FaceTime request from Mom and Dad. I answered it, propping the phone up against a stack of magazines. Marla and Everett filled the screen, sitting in their recliners in their small living room 2 towns over. Hi, sweetie, Mom said, peering into the camera. Jenna tells us you are being a stick in the mud. I rubbed my temples. Hello to you too. Mom, I am not being a stick in the mud. I am being a parent. Jenna wants to take Logan to Florida tomorrow. We know, Dad chimed in. She called us. She sounded so excited. Sadie, she wants to do a nice thing for the boy. It is expensive, Dad, and I have work. So let her take him, Mom said, as if it were the most obvious solution in the world. You stay home, you work, you relax. Jenna takes Logan. They have a bonding trip. My heart skipped a beat. Send Logan alone with Jenna. Jenna is great with him. But she was disorganized. She lost keys. She forgot appointments. The idea of her navigating airports in a strange city with my son made my palms sweat. I cannot let them go alone. I said, why not? Mom's voice sharpened. She is your sister. Sadie. She is a nurse. For heaven's sake. She keeps people alive for a living. You act like she is an incompetent child. She is untethered. Mom. She is sensitive, Mom corrected. And right now, she is trying to show you she can help. If you say no, you are telling her you do not trust her. You are telling her she is not part of this family. That is not fair. I protested. What is not fair is you smothering that boy. Dad grumbled. You hold him so tight he's going to suffocate. Let him go see the ocean. Let your sister feel good about herself for once. I looked at the phone, feeling the walls closing in. They knew exactly which buttons to push. The guilt button, the trust button, the you think you are better than us button. If I say no, I am the villain. I am the controlling, elitist sister who thinks her family is not good enough. Fine, I said, my voice hollow. If Drew agrees, if Drew says yes, I will think about it. I hung up before they could celebrate. I stared at Drew's name in my contacts for 5 minutes before I pressed the call button. It was 8:30 at night. He would probably be at the club or having a late dinner. He answered on the second ring. Sadie. Is everything okay? His voice was guarded. It always was. Everything is fine, I said, keeping my tone businesslike. I have a request. Jenna wants to take Logan to Florida for a few days. Tomorrow until Tuesday. Just a quick trip. There was a pause. I braced myself for the interrogation. Where are they staying? Who is paying? Why aren't you going instead? Drew let out a short breath. Florida, like the beach. Yes, Coral Bay. Near Miami. Coral Bay, he repeated. He sounded thoughtful. You know, that might be good. I blinked. Excuse me? It might be good for him, Drew said. His voice was lighter, almost breezy. Maplebridge is so gray right now. Maybe it is good for Logan to see a nicer coast once in a while. Get some sun. I frowned. The comment about the nicer coast was classic Hale snobbery. But his permission was shockingly easy. You are okay with it, I asked. You do not mind him leaving the state, Sadie. I am not a monster. Drew laughed, a sound that grated on my nerves. If Jenna wants to play nanny, let her. Send me the dates. I will sign whatever you need. I hung up, staring at the phone. It was too easy. Drew never made things easy. It nagged at me, a little scratch at the back of my mind. Maybe it is good for Logan to see a nicer coast. But then Jenna came back into the room, holding a peace offering, a bowl of popcorn. Well, she asked, her eyes big and hopeful. He said yes. I said quietly. Jenna shrieked. She actually shrieked. She set the bowl down and threw her arms around me. You are the best sister ever. We are going to have so much fun. The trip will be so much fun. Sadie, I promise. The next 12 hours were a blur of military-grade preparation. If I was going to let my chaotic sister take my son across the country, I was going to control every variable I could. I printed everything, flight itineraries, hotel confirmation numbers. I looked up the nearest hospital to the resort and wrote the address on an index card. I made copies of Logan's insurance card. I typed up a consent letter authorizing Jenna to make medical decisions in an emergency and had it notarized at the bank as soon as they opened in the morning. I packed Logan's suitcase myself, 4 outfits, 2 swimsuits, sunscreen SPF 50, his asthma inhaler just in case, though he had not used it in a year. Jenna sat on the bed, watching me pack with amusement. You know they sell toothpaste in Florida, right? She teased. I ignored her. Here is the folder. Jenna. I held up the bright red plastic folder. Oh boy. The folder. Inside are his documents. My number is written on the front. Drew's number is below it. I want a video call every night at 6 o'clock sharp. Not 6:15. 6. Aye, Captain. Jenna saluted, grabbing the folder and stuffing it into her tote bag. Do not stuff it, I snapped. Keep it flat. It is important. I am kidding. Sadie, relax. She smoothed the folder out. I have got this. Truly. I looked at her. She was wearing a sundress and oversized sunglasses, looking like a movie star. She looked happy. For the first time in months, she did not look defeated. Thank you. Jen, I said, softening. For doing this for him? She smiled, and it reached her eyes. He is my favorite person. Sadie, I would never let anything happen to him. The airport was crowded. The humidity of the terminal pressed against us as we waited in the security line. Logan was wearing his shark backpack, bouncing on the balls of his feet. I held him tight, breathing in the scent of his shampoo. Be good for Aunt Jenna. Okay, listen to her. I will. Mom. He pulled away, eager to go. You are squishing me. I stood up and looked at Jenna. She was fumbling with the boarding passes she had printed at home. Wait, I said, leaning in. This says Flight 402. I thought you were on 385? Oh, yeah, Jenna said quickly, not meeting my eyes. The airline changed it this morning. Better connection or something. I handled it. And the resort, I asked, glancing at the itinerary peeking out of her bag. It said the Palms, but I thought we looked at Coral Reef. Same ownership group, Jenna said, laughing nervously. She tapped her foot. It is an upgrade. Actually, a surprise. I did not want to jinx it. Surprises. I hated surprises. A faint sense of unease rippled through me. The small inconsistencies, the nervous energy. It felt off. Jenna, are you sure you have enough money I can transfer you, Sadie? Stop, Jenna grabbed Logan's hand. We are fine. We are going to have a blast. Stop worrying. The trip will be so much fun. She flashed her dazzling smile, the one that got her out of speeding tickets and charmed difficult patients. Bye. Mom. Logan waved, already turning toward the TSA agent. Bye, baby. I watched them walk away, Jenna in her flowing dress, Logan with his shark fin bobbing in the sea of travelers. They looked like a happy pair of tourists. I waited until they were through the checkpoint. I waited until I saw Jenna turn and wave one last time. I waved back, forcing a smile I did not feel. As I walked back to my car, the parking garage felt cold and empty. I sat in the driver's seat and locked the doors. I gripped the steering wheel, my knuckles turning white. Maybe it is good for Logan to see a nicer coast. Why did that phrase stick in my throat like a bone? I started the engine and drove out into the daylight, telling myself I was being paranoid. It was just a vacation. It was just my sister. It was just a few days. But as I merged onto the highway, heading back to my quiet, empty house, I could not shake the feeling that I had just made a terrible mistake. The silence in my house was not the peaceful kind I had fantasized about for years. It was heavy and accusatory, without the clatter of Lego bricks being dumped onto the hardwood or the hum of the television playing cartoons. The rooms felt cavernous. I spent the first 24 hours cleaning things that were already clean, scrubbing the grout in the shower and reorganizing the pantry by expiration date, just to keep my hands moving. My phone was my lifeline. I kept it in my pocket, the volume turned all the way up, waiting for the 6 o'clock check-in. The first video call on Friday evening came right on time. The screen lit up with Logan's face, sun-flushed and beaming. Mom. Look. He held up a massive, spiral conch shell, nearly dropping the phone in the process. I found it in the sand. Aunt Jenna says I can keep it if I wash it out. Hi, baby. I pressed my hand against the screen, feeling a wave of relief so strong it made my knees weak. He was okay. He was happy. It is beautiful. Lo, are you wearing your sunscreen? Yes, SPF 50. Jenna's voice chimed in. She leaned into the frame, her cheeks pink, her blonde hair pulled back in a messy bun. She looked radiant, lighter than she had in months. See, I told you. He is alive. We are having a blast. She spun the camera around to show off the view. Look at this sunset. Sadie, you should be here. The camera panned across a balcony. Beyond the railing, the ocean was a sheet of hammered gold under the setting sun, but my eyes caught the details of the immediate foreground. The balcony railing was wrought iron, intricate and heavy, not the cheap aluminum typical of mid-range beach resorts. The floor was travertine tile, not concrete, and in the corner of the frame, I saw a sliver of a private plunge pool. That is the hotel, I asked, squinting. It looks fancy. Upgrade, Jenna shouted over the wind. They bumped us to a villa. Can you believe it? A villa at a discount resort. Before I could ask more, Logan grabbed the phone back. We saw a lizard. Mom, a green one. And we had pizza for lunch. I let the questions die in my throat. Logan was smiling. That was what mattered. I love you, buddy. I said, be good. Call me tomorrow. The uneasiness started as a low hum on Saturday morning. I was drinking coffee and scrolling through social media, looking for the photos Jenna had promised to post. She had uploaded a series of shots Logan building a sandcastle, a close-up of a virgin piña colada, and a selfie of the two of them in sunglasses. I tapped on the selfie. Jenna had forgotten to turn off her location tagging. Above the image, in small gray letters, it read, Coral Bay, Florida. I frowned. I opened a new tab and searched for Coral Bay. It was not just a neighborhood in Miami. It was an incorporated city an hour north, known for gated communities, private security patrols, and residents who appeared on the Forbes list. It was not a place for discount package tours. I texted Jenna. The tag says Coral Bay. I thought you were in Miami Beach. 3 bubbles appeared, then vanished, then appeared again. Miami area. Coral Bay. Same thing. She replied. It is all the same coast. Sadie. Don't be the geography police. Relax. I stared at the screen. It was not the same thing. Miami Beach was chaotic and loud. Coral Bay was secluded and exclusive. Why lie about the geography? I tried to shake it off. I went to the grocery store, buying the expensive cheese I never bought when Logan was home because he would not eat it. I tried to enjoy the freedom, but every time I passed the cereal aisle, I felt a phantom limb sensation, reaching for the sugary box I usually said no to. By Saturday evening, the scheduled call slipped. 6 o'clock came and went. At 6:30, I texted, "Is everything okay?" waiting for the call. No response. At 7, I called. It went to voicemail. My heart began to hammer a frantic rhythm against my ribs. I paced the living room, clutching the phone. They are just at dinner. I told myself, they are having fun. Don't be the crazy mother. At 7:45, a photo came through. It was Logan, curled up in a massive bed with high thread count sheets, fast asleep. The caption read, "Wiped out after a big day. Sorry we missed the call. He crashed early. Talk tomorrow." I stared at the photo, analyzing it like a crime scene. The lighting was dim. In the background, there was a sliding glass door leading out to the dark balcony. The interior lights reflected off the glass. I zoomed in. There, in the blurry reflection of the glass door, was a shape. It was not Jenna. It was broader. A silhouette of a person standing near the photographer. It looked like a man. He was wearing what looked like a collared shirt. I blinked, rubbing my eyes. Was it a waiter, room service? Or just a shadow from a floor lamp? "Who is that?" I typed, my fingers trembling. "Who is in the room with you?" I hit send. The message status changed to delivered. It never changed to read. Sunday was a blur of rising panic. Jenna texted sporadically pictures of food, a video of Logan splashing in the surf from a distance, but she dodged every request for a live video call. "Service is spotty on the beach," she claimed. "Microphone is acting up." My parents, however, were unusually communicative. Marla texted me 4 times before noon. "Are you enjoying the quiet house? You deserve this rest. Sadie." And then, "Do not pester your sister. Let them bond." I called my mother at 2 o'clock. "Mom, something feels off. Jenna is not calling at the scheduled times, and I saw something in a photo." "Oh, stop it," Marla snapped, her voice tinny through the speaker. "You are looking for problems. You always do this. You sabotage your own peace. I am not sabotaging anything. I am worried about my son. He is with family. Sadie, he is with his aunt. Why do you trust strangers at his school more than your own blood?" I hung up, feeling gaslighted and small. 10 minutes later, a text arrived from Marla. It was different from her usual nagging. It felt heavy, loaded with subtext. "If this works out, everything could change for you. Just let it happen." I read the message 3 times. If this works out. If what works out? A vacation. How would a vacation change everything for me? The vagueness of it made my stomach tighten into a knot. It sounded less like a wish for relaxation and more like a promise of a transaction. The breaking point came on Monday morning. I was at my desk at work, staring blankly at a spreadsheet, when my cell phone buzzed. It was a number I did not recognize, with a Florida area code. I answered it, expecting Jenna. "Hello, is this Sadie Brooks?" a woman's voice asked. She sounded polished, professional, and utterly detached. "Yes, this is she. Ms. Brooks, this is the reception desk at Hart Alder, calling from Coral Bay. We are verifying contact information for some jurisdictional paperwork related to the current time-sharing arrangement." My hand froze on the mouse. Hart Alder. It sounded like a law firm. I am sorry, I stammered. What paperwork? Who are you? The woman's tone did not waver. We just need to confirm your current address in Maplebridge to ensure the file is complete. Can you please verify your house number? I said, my voice rising. I will not verify anything. Why are you calling me? What is time sharing? It was a term I had heard vaguely in divorce forums, a Florida-specific legal term for custody schedules. I cannot discuss the details of the petition with you, the receptionist said smoothly. I am just the intake coordinator. We simply need to confirm that you are aware of the intent to adjust time sharing based on the minor's presence in the jurisdiction. The minor's presence. The room spun. The gray carpet of my office seemed to tilt. My son is on vacation, I managed to say, my voice trembling. He is on a vacation with his aunt. There is no intent to adjust anything. If you could just verify the address. I hung up. I threw the phone onto the desk as if it were a live grenade. Intent to adjust time sharing. Presence in the jurisdiction. They were legal words, heavy words, words that did not belong in a conversation about a beach trip. I grabbed the phone again and dialed the number back. It went to an automated menu. Thank you for calling Hart Alder, specializing in complex family law and interstate custody disputes. I ended the call, my breath coming in short, shallow gasps. This was not a mistake. This was a move. I did not text Jenna. I video called her, and I kept calling until she answered. It took 4 tries. When the connection finally clicked open, Jenna was inside the room. She looked different. The easy, breezy vacation vibe was gone. She was wearing a stiff white blouse I had never seen before, and her eyes were darting around the room, avoiding the camera lens. Sadie, she said. Her voice was tight. I told you the service is bad. Who is Hart Alder? I demanded. Jenna flinched. She physically recoiled from the phone. What a law firm just called me. Jenna, a law firm in Coral Bay. They asked about my address. They said something about adjusting time sharing. What did you do? Jenna swallowed hard. I do not know what you are talking about. You are being crazy. Do not lie to me, I screamed, causing my office mate to look up in alarm. I lowered my voice to a hiss. Where is Logan? Put him on the phone, now. He is at the pool, Jenna said quickly. With the kids' club. You said you were with him. I am taking a break. God. Sadie, why do you have to be like this? Why can you never just trust anyone? Because law firms do not call people on vacation, I shouted. Who is paying for this trip? Jenna. Who is really paying for it? Jenna's face crumbled for a split second, a flash of terrified guilt before she walled it off with anger. You are ruining it, she spat. You are overreacting and you are ruining everything. She reached for the screen. Jenna, do not you dare hang up. The screen went black. I stared at my reflection in the dark glass of the phone. My face was pale, my eyes wide and wild. I tried to call back, straight to voicemail. I texted, call me back or I'm calling the police. Nothing. I packed my bag. I did not care about work. I walked out of the office, telling my boss I had a family emergency, and drove home with my heart in my throat. As I pulled into my driveway, my phone buzzed again. I snatched it up, praying it was Jenna. It was a text from Drew. Hey, just checking in. When is Logan back Tuesday? Right? I stared at the message. Drew never checked in on dates. He usually waited for me to remind him. Yes, Tuesday. I typed back, my fingers clumsy. Why 3 dots? Just curious. I might be in Florida for a work thing later this week. Thought I could swing by and see him if he was still down there. No big deal. The phone slipped from my hand and landed on the passenger seat. Drew had a work thing in Florida. At the same time, Logan was there. Drew, who hated travel. Drew, who had not visited Logan in 3 months. The coincidence was not a coincidence. It was a coordination. I ran inside my house and booted up my laptop. I sat at the kitchen table, still in my coat, and typed furiously. Florida child custody laws, home state jurisdiction. The results flooded the screen. A wall of legalese. I scanned through them, my eyes burning. Uniform Child Custody Jurisdiction and Enforcement Act, UCC, JEA, home state. the state where the child has lived for 6 consecutive months. I let out a breath. 6 months. He had only been there 3 days. But then I scrolled down. Exceptions. Significant connection. Emergency jurisdiction. If the child is present in the state and it is necessary to protect the child. And then, a forum post from a father in a similar situation. If you let them establish residency, even for a few weeks, and you don't object, they can file for a modification if they can prove the child is better off there and you are absent. They were trying to move the battlefield. Maplebridge was my turf. The judges here knew me. They knew I was the primary parent. They knew Carson Hale was a bully. But Florida. Florida was Carson's vacation playground. If they could argue that Logan was residing there, even temporarily, and that I was an unstable or absent mother who sent her child away. I looked at the text from Marla again. If this works out, everything could change. They were all in on it. My parents, Jenna, Drew, Carson. They had sent Logan away so they could file paperwork in a jurisdiction where Carson's money spoke louder than my devotion. And Jenna, my sister, the one person I thought was on my team, she was the delivery system. I felt a scream building in my chest, a primal, animal sound of betrayal and terror. But I swallowed it. I did not have time to scream. I grabbed my credit card. It was the emergency card, the one with the high interest rate I had sworn never to touch. I pulled up an airline website. The flights to Miami were exorbitant for a same-day booking. $800. I did not care. I would sell my car. I would sell the house. I booked the seat. Flight leaves at 6:45 p.m. It was currently 2:30. I ran to the bedroom and threw clothes into a duffel bag. I did not fold them. I grabbed Logan's birth certificate from the fire safe. I grabbed the custody decree. I grabbed every piece of paper that proved he was mine. My phone buzzed. It was Mom. Jenna says you are freaking out. She is crying. Sadie, you are upsetting her. Stop being dramatic. I typed back a single sentence. I am coming to get my son. Then I turned off the phone. I could not listen to them anymore. I could not listen to the gaslighting, the lies, the manipulation. I drove to the airport in a fugue state. The world outside the car window looked sharp and hyper-real, like a nightmare I could not wake up from. Every red light felt like a personal attack. As I stood in the security line, watching the TSA agent scan my ID, the reality of what I was doing hit me. I was flying to a city I did not know to fight a billionaire and my own family for the life of my child. I was one woman with a maxed-out credit card and a terrifying voicemail from a law firm. But as I walked down the jet bridge, feeling the cold air of the plane hit my face, a cold resolve settled in my gut. They thought I was the boring one. They thought I was the weak one who just followed the rules. They were about to find out exactly what the responsible one was capable of when you tried to take her child. The humidity hit me the moment the automatic doors of the airport terminal slid open. It was midnight in Florida, and the air was thick, carrying the scent of jet fuel and damp pavement. It felt like walking into a mouth. I sat in the back of a rideshare car that smelled of vanilla air freshener and stale cigarettes, clutching my phone so hard my fingers ached. The driver, a man with a thick neck and tired eyes, had tried to make conversation about the weather, but I had shut him down with a single, sharp sentence. I could not talk about the heat. I could not talk about anything. My thumb hovered over the screen. Scrolling. Scroll, tap, zoom. I was looking at Jenna's photos again. The selfie with the sunset, the picture of the breakfast buffet, the shot of Logan by the pool. I was looking for clues I had missed the first time. Breadcrumbs that would lead me to where my son actually was. The resort name from the geotag was The Palms at Coral Bay. It sounded generic, the kind of place that printed its name on cheap pens, but as the car wound its way off the highway and toward the coast, the scenery changed. Strip malls and gas stations gave way to manicured hedges and high walls made of white stucco. "Here we are," the driver said. Slowing down, we pulled up to a gatehouse that looked more like the entrance to a fortress than a hotel. The guard checked the driver's ID, glanced at me in the back seat with suspicious eyes, and finally waved us through. The driveway was long, lined with palm trees that were lit from below, casting long, skeletal shadows across the road. The main building rose up like a white wedding cake against the black sky. It was ostentatious. It was expensive. It was exactly the kind of place Carson Hale would approve of, and exactly the kind of place Jenna could never afford. I paid the driver and walked into the lobby. The air conditioning was set to a temperature that made the sweat on my skin turn to ice. The floors were marble, polished to a mirror shine. I walked straight to the reception desk. A young woman with a tight ponytail and a uniform that looked tailored was typing on a computer. She looked up, her smile practiced and hollow. "Good evening. Checking in, I'm looking for a guest," I said, my voice sounding ragged to my own ears. "My sister, Jenna Brooks. She is staying here with my son." "Logan." The woman tapped her long fingernails against the keyboard. "Brooks. Let me see." She stared at the screen for a long moment. Then she frowned. "I have no reservation under that name, ma'am." My stomach dropped. "Try Hale," I said. "Carson Hale. Or maybe Drew Hale." She typed again. Her frown deepened. "I am sorry. I cannot give out information about other guests, but I do not see a Jenna Brooks or a current reservation for a Hale party in our active system." "Please," I said, leaning over the high counter. My hands were shaking. "I know they were here. She posted photos. My son is 8 years old. He has sandy hair, blue eyes. Please look again, ma'am. If they are not in the system, I need you to look," I snapped, my voice cracking. The receptionist recoiled, her hand moving toward the phone on the desk, likely to call security. I stepped back, running my hands through my hair. Think, Sadie. Think, maybe they were under a pseudonym. Maybe Jenna had lied about the hotel name too. I turned away from the desk, scanning the lobby desperately. It was empty, save for a few late-night stragglers at the bar across the room. I looked at the bell stand, where luggage was stacked for morning departures, and then I saw it. Tucked behind the concierge desk, sitting on a low shelf reserved for lost and found items, was a flash of gray and neon blue. It was a shark fin. I lunged toward the concierge desk. "Ma'am, you cannot go back there." The receptionist called out. I ignored her. I reached over the counter and grabbed the backpack. It was gritty with sand. I turned it over. There, written in permanent marker on the inside of the strap, was my handwriting, "Logan Brooks." "This is his," I whispered, clutching the bag to my chest. It smelled like sunscreen and the grape juice boxes he loved. I spun around to face the receptionist, holding the bag up like evidence. "This belongs to my son. He was here. Where is he?" The receptionist looked at the bag, then at my face. She saw the terror there, and the polished veneer of customer service finally cracked. She glanced around the lobby to make sure her manager was not watching, then lowered her voice. "I was not on shift during the day," she said quietly. "But the night auditor, he mentioned a group leaving." She gestured to a young man standing by the luggage cart, a guy with messy hair who looked like he would rather be anywhere else. "Hey, Kevin," she hissed. "The lady is asking about the kid with the shark bag." Kevin looked up. He saw the backpack in my arms and winced. "Oh, yeah," he said, walking over slowly. "That was the room in the villa block. They checked out this morning. Early? Like 6 o'clock. "Who checked out?" I demanded. "Who was with him?" "The blonde woman," Kevin said. "The kid. And there were 2 other guys. One was older, silver hair, expensive suit, even for 6 in the morning, and a younger guy. Looked like an assistant. They were in a rush. The kid left his bag in the lobby while they were loading the car, and by the time I grabbed it to run it out to them, they were gone." "Did you see the car?" I asked. "Please, did you see the car?" Kevin nodded. "Hard to miss. Black SUV. Escalade. I think it had a personalized plate." "What did it say?" He scratched his head. "Hale 1. Like the number 1. The air left my lungs. Hale 1. It was Carson's car. Not a rental, not a taxi. Carson had driven his own personal vehicle here, or had it transported. That meant this was not a whim. This was an operation. Thank you. I breathed. I turned and walked out of the hotel, clutching Logan's backpack so tight the plastic buckles dug into my skin. I stood on the curb, the humidity wrapping around me again, and I felt a cold, hard rage settling in the pit of my stomach. Carson Hale had my son. I could not afford to stay at the Palms. I took another rideshare 3 miles inland to a motel called the Coral Inn. It was a 2-story building with peeling yellow paint and a neon sign that buzzed with an angry, electrical hum. The room smelled of bleach and mildew. I locked the door, threw my bag on the bed, and sat down at the wobbly laminate desk. I placed Logan's backpack next to me like a talisman. I opened my laptop. The screen glowed blue in the dim room. I needed to understand the landscape. I needed to know how they had coordinated this without me sensing a thing. I logged into my email. I started searching for keywords. Jenna, Mom, Dad, Florida. Nothing new appeared. Then I saw it. A message from my father. Everett. Sent 3 weeks ago. The subject line was FWD. Past due support / financial overview. I had ignored it at the time. My parents were always sending guilt-tripping emails about how much money they had spent on us over the years. Usually when they wanted me to co-sign a loan or pay for a car repair. I had archived it without opening, too exhausted to deal with their passive aggression. Now, I clicked it open. The body of the email was brief. Sadie. Attached is the breakdown we discussed. We need to clear the decks if we are going to move forward. But it was the attachment that stopped my heart. It was an Excel spreadsheet, and it was not addressed to me. The original email, which my father had forwarded to me likely by mistake, or perhaps as a twisted way of showing me the bill, was sent from Everett's email address to E. Vance Hallicor, com. E. Vance, Carson's executive assistant, the man who managed Carson's life, from his dry cleaning to his dirty work. I opened the spreadsheet. It was an itemized invoice. January 2014. Loan for Sadie's car repair. $400. March 2015. Babysitting Logan, 3 weekends, $600. August 2018. Jenna's nursing school tuition assistance, $5,000. December 2020. Emergency rent for Jenna, $1,200. The list went on and on. Years of favors, years of family support that I had thought was given out of love, or at least out of obligation, were listed here with dollar signs next to them. At the bottom of the spreadsheet, there was a total, and below the total, a note written in my father's blocky typing, total outstanding family debt, $42,000. Agreement full settlement upon successful transfer of LB to Florida jurisdiction. I stared at the screen until the letters blurred. They had sold him. My parents had not just encouraged the trip. They had negotiated a price for it. They had itemized every moment of kindness they had ever shown me and my son, tallied it up, and sent the bill to Carson Hale. And the payment for that bill was my son. I grabbed my phone. My hands were trembling so badly I dropped it twice before I could dial. I called my mother via video chat. It was 1 a.m. I did not care. She answered on the 5th ring, her face puffy with sleep, the bedside lamp casting harsh shadows on her wrinkles. "Sadie," she croaked. "What time is it? Is everything okay?" I turned my laptop screen toward the phone camera, showing her the spreadsheet. I found the email. "Mom," I said. My voice was deadly calm. "I found the invoice you sent to Carson's assistant." Marla squinted at the screen. Her face went slack. She pulled the phone back, looking at Everett, who was stirring beside her. "Everett, wake up," she hissed. "Sadie, listen," my father mumbled, sitting up and putting on his glasses. "You are misunderstanding. I am looking at a price tag." "Dad," I screamed. $42,000, that is what Logan is worth to you. You sold your grandson to clear your debts." "We did not sell him," Marla shouted back, her defensiveness kicking in instantly. "We secured his future and yours." She sat up, clutching her nightgown. "Carson approached us months ago." "Sadie." He saw how much we were struggling. He saw how hard you were working, how you were always one flat tire away from disaster. He said he could help. He said he could provide stability for Logan that you just cannot give him. Stability, I choked out. He is a monster. He treated me like dirt. He is a billionaire. Sadie Everett yelled, "He can give that boy the world, private schools, travel, a trust fund. What can you give him? A sandwich and a latchkey." I felt like I had been slapped. "So you conspired with him?" I asked, tears streaming down my face. "You and Jenna." "Jenna is doing what is best for the family," Marla said, her voice turning self-righteous. "She is helping give Logan options, and Carson promised to take care of us. He is paying off the loans. Sadie, he is paying off the credit cards. We are drowning here. Did you ever stop to think about us? About how much we have sacrificed for you?" "You sacrificed me," I whispered. "You sacrificed my son. We lightened your load," Everett said. "You should be grateful someone with resources cares enough to step in. Most ex-fathers-in-law would not pay a dime. Carson is willing to clear the slate. If Logan lives there, you can still visit. You can start over. You can find a husband who actually has money this time." I looked at them, the people who had raised me, the people I had spent my whole life trying to please, trying to prove I was responsible enough for their love, and I saw them for what they were. Small, greedy, frightened people who had let a rich man buy their conscience. "You are never going to see him again," I said, "if I get him back. You are never going to see him again." I ended the call before they could respond. I sat in the silence of the motel room, listening to the hum of the mini-fridge. I felt hollowed out. The betrayal was so absolute it felt physical, like my ribs had been cracked open. I looked at the backpack on the bed. The shark fin was bent. I am all he has. I thought, literally, everyone else has a price. A knock at the door made me jump. I froze. It was 2 a.m. Sadie, a voice called out. It was soft, muffled by the wood. It was Jenna. I stood up, adrenaline flooding my system. I walked to the door and looked through the peephole. Jenna was standing there. She looked terrible. Her hair was matted, her mascara smeared under her eyes. She was wearing the same dress from the photos, but it was wrinkled and stained. I threw the lock and ripped the door open. Jenna flinched as if I were going to hit her. She raised her hands. "I know," she sobbed. "I know you want to kill me." "Where is he?" I demanded, grabbing her arm and pulling her into the room. "Where is my son? He is safe." Jenna wept. "He is safe. Please, let me explain." I shoved her onto the edge of the bed and stood over her. "Start talking. And if you lie to me one more time." "Jenna, I swear to God I will call the police right now and have you arrested for kidnapping." "I did not mean for it to be like this." Jenna buried her face in her hands. "Carson's assistant called me. He said you were in town. He said you went to the hotel. He said it is getting messy, and I had to come fix it." "Fix it?" I laughed, a harsh, jagged sound. "You cannot fix this. You stole him." "I did not steal him. I brought him on vacation. You brought him to his grandfather to establish residency," I screamed. "I saw the email. Jenna, I saw the spreadsheet." "Did you get a cut? Did Mom and Dad give you a piece of the 42 grand? Jenna looked up, her eyes red and swollen. "No, I did not want their money." "Then why?" I asked. "Why did you do it?" Jenna wiped her nose with the back of her hand. Her shoulders slumped. "I had surgery," she whispered. "What? Last year? When I disappeared for a week, I did not have the flu. I had a cyst on my ovary. It ruptured. I had emergency surgery. I did not have insurance. Sadie. I was between contracts." I stared at her. "You never told me. Because you would have lectured me. You would have told me I was irresponsible for not having coverage. The bill was $30,000. The hospital was garnishing my wages. I could not pay rent. I was going to declare bankruptcy. So you sold my son to pay a hospital bill." Carson found out. Jenna said, "I do not know how. He called me. He said he has a charitable foundation. He said he helps healthcare workers. He offered to pay the debt in full. And he said he has a health outreach program in his company. He offered me a job. Sadie, a real job, with benefits, $70,000 a year." I felt sick. Carson had preyed on her desperation perfectly. What was the trade, I asked. He just said he wanted to see Logan. Jenna pleaded. He said Drew was useless and he wanted to be a grandfather. He said if I could just help with the logistics, get Logan down here, help him get settled. And the law firm, I asked. Hart Alder. Jenna looked down at her lap. Carson's lawyer met us at the hotel yesterday. He had a folder. He said it was just standard permission forms for the trip and for medical care while he was here. He said since you were out of state, they needed a local guardian appointed just in case. And you signed it? I signed everything he gave me. Jenna cried. I did not read it all. It was so much legal stuff. I thought I was just helping. But then he said something about custodial transfer, and I got scared. I asked Carson, and he told me not to worry, that it was just technicalities to make sure Logan could go to the private school here if you agreed. If I agreed, I scoffed. They called me to confirm his residency. Jenna, they are trying to take him. Jenna began to rock back and forth. I did not know it would go this far. I thought we would just stay for a week, and Carson would spoil him, and then we would go home, and I would have my debt paid. Where is he now? I asked again, my voice low. He is at a beach house. Jenna said, it is in a gated community called the Sanctuary. Carson has a rental there. He is with Carson's housekeeper, Mrs. Alvarez. You remember her? I remembered her. She was a kind woman. That was a small mercy. Does Logan know? I asked. Does he know I am here? Does he know you left him? No. Jenna shook her head. I told him I had to go to the store. I told him Grandpa Carson was going to take him fishing in the morning. He thinks it is just an extended vacation. He is happy. Sadie. He is swimming and eating ice cream. I looked at my sister. She was broken. She was a mess, and she was the instrument of my destruction. I ordered food. I said abruptly. Jenna blinked. What I ordered Chinese food. It is coming in 10 minutes. You are going to eat, and then you are going to sleep for 2 hours. Sadie, I cannot. You are going to eat, I repeated, because at dawn, you are taking me to that beach house. You are going to get me through the gate, and I'm going to take my son back. Jenna looked at me with a mixture of fear and awe. Carson is there. She whispered, he is staying at the house too. Good, I said. I picked up Logan's backpack and set it gently on the chair. I want him to see me take him. We ate in silence. The cheap fried rice tasted like cardboard, but I forced myself to swallow. I needed the fuel. Jenna picked at an egg roll, her hands still shaking. When we finished, I made her lie down on the other double bed. She passed out almost instantly, the exhaustion of the deception finally claiming her. I did not sleep. I sat by the window, watching the neon sign flicker outside. Buzz, click, buzz, click. I thought about Drew. I thought about the work trip he had mentioned. He was probably flying in tomorrow to play the part of the doting father for the courts. I thought about my parents, tallying up my worth in an Excel spreadsheet, and I thought about Carson Hale, a man who believed that everyone had a price. He was right about my parents. He was right about Jenna, but he was wrong about me. I looked at the clock. 4:30 in the morning. Get up, I said into the darkness. Jenna groaned and rolled over. Get up, Jenna, I said, standing and grabbing my bag. We are leaving. She sat up, rubbing her face. Now, it is pitch black. It is a perfect time, I said. I checked my pocket to make sure I had my phone and the rental car keys I had secured from the motel clerk's cousin for $200 cash, another desperate transaction in a night full of them. We walked out into the humid darkness. The air was heavy with the smell of the ocean and impending rain. I drove. Jenna sat in the passenger seat, giving me directions in a quiet, trembling voice. Turn left at the next light. The entrance is a mile down. We drove in silence, the headlights cutting through the mist. Finally, we reached the gates of the sanctuary. It was even more imposing than the hotel. Iron gates, stone lions, a guard booth with tinted windows. I stopped the car. What do I do? I asked. Jenna took a deep breath. She rolled down the window. The guard stepped out. He shone a flashlight into the car. Name, he asked. Jenna Brooks, she said, her voice wavering only slightly. I am on the guest list for the Hale residence. This is my sister. She is dropping me off. The guard checked his clipboard. He shone the light on my face. I stared straight ahead, keeping my expression bored and tired. Okay, Ms. Brooks, the guard said. He hit a button. The heavy iron gates began to swing open. I drove through. We are in, Jenna whispered. Which house? I asked. Number 4, Ocean Drive. It is the big one at the end. I navigated the winding streets. The houses here were mansions, massive structures of glass and stone sitting behind high hedges. We reached number 4. It was a sprawling modern estate with floor-to-ceiling windows facing the ocean. A black SUV, the one with the Hale 1 plate, was parked in the circular driveway. I parked the beat-up sedan right behind it, blocking it in. I turned off the engine. The silence was sudden and absolute. I turned to Jenna. Do you have a key? She nodded. She reached into her purse and pulled out a sleek electronic key fob. Let's go, I said. I opened the car door and stepped out into the salt air. I could hear the waves crashing on the shore beyond the house. It was the sound of the nicer coast Drew had promised. I walked up the stone steps to the front door, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird, but my hands were steady. I was not the poor girl from Maplebridge anymore. I was not the disappointing daughter-in-law. I was a mother coming for her child, and God help anyone who stood in my way. The drive to the beach rental was a study in suffocating silence. The air in the car felt heavy, charged with the humidity of the Florida coast and the unspoken history between my sister and me. Jenna drove the rental car with a white-knuckled grip on the steering wheel, her eyes fixed on the road as the first hints of gray light began to bleed into the sky. We turned off the main highway onto a private road lined with royal palms. Their trunks were thick and smooth, rising like concrete pillars to support the canopy overhead. This was the sanctuary, a gated community that lived up to its name if you were rich enough to need saving from the rest of the world. We pulled up to the guardhouse. It was a structure of limestone and dark wood, manned by a security officer who looked more like private military than a gatekeeper. He stepped out, his flashlight cutting through the dim morning mist. Name, he asked, his voice flat. Jenna rolled down the window. Jenna Brooks, she said, her voice trembling slightly before she cleared her throat and tried again. Jenna Brooks. I am on the guest list for the Hale residence. The guard looked at her, then down at the tablet in his hand. He scrolled slowly, the blue light illuminating his bored expression. He glanced at me in the passenger seat. She is with me, Jenna added quickly. My sister. He did not ask for my name. To him, I was just cargo. He tapped the screen. The gate emitted a low electronic hum, and the iron bars swung inward. Go ahead, he said. We drove through the labyrinth of the community. The houses here were not just homes. They were architectural statements, massive expanses of glass, cantilevered roofs, and infinity pools that seemed to drop off into the ocean. There were no toys in the driveways, no tricycles, no signs of life. It was a ghost town for the 1%. That is it, Jenna whispered, pointing to a house at the end of a cul-de-sac. It was a modern fortress of white stucco and tinted glass. The black SUV with the Hale 1 license plate sat in the driveway like a guarding beast. Jenna parked our car on the street, and we walked up the paver driveway. The sound of the ocean was louder here, a rhythmic crashing that should have been soothing, but sounded to me like a clock ticking down. Jenna used the key fob to unlock the massive front door. It swung open silently. The inside of the house smelled of lemon verbena and cold air conditioning. The foyer opened into a cavernous living area with floor-to-ceiling windows looking out over the Atlantic. The sun was just starting to crest the horizon, painting the water in stripes of violet and orange, but I did not care about the view. My eyes scanned the room, bypassing the white leather sofas and the abstract art. Mommy. The voice came from the kitchen area to the left. I turned. Logan was sitting at a massive marble island, his legs dangling off a high stool. He was wearing his dinosaur pajamas and eating a bowl of colorful cereal. A piece of paper and some crayons were spread out next to his bowl. "Logan," I ran to him. Dropping my purse on the floor, I scooped him up into my arms, burying my face in his neck. He smelled of milk and sleep and the shampoo I bought him back in Maplebridge. "You are here," he said, wiggling in my grip. Delighted but confused. "Aunt Jenna said you were working. Did you finish work early?" I pulled back to look at him. His face was open and guileless. He had no idea. He had no idea that his mother had crossed state lines in a panic, that his grandparents had sold him out, or that his vacation was a kidnapping in disguise. "Yes, baby," I said, forcing a smile that felt like it might crack my face. "I finished early. I missed you so much, I decided to come surprise you." "That is awesome," Logan beamed. "Look, Mom, I saw dolphins yesterday. 3 of them. They were jumping right out there. And Grandpa Carson said we might go on a boat today. Can you come on the boat?" My heart hammered against my ribs. I looked at the drawing on the counter. It was a crude crayon depiction of a sandcastle with a flag on top. "We will see about the boat," I said, stroking his hair. "But right now, I just want to hug you." "Sadie," the voice was smooth, cultured, and instantly raised the hair on my arms. I turned slowly. Carson Hale stood in the archway leading to the bedroom wing. He was wearing linen trousers and a pale blue polo shirt that looked like it cost more than my car. He held a ceramic mug of coffee, looking for all the world like a man enjoying a peaceful morning at his beach house, rather than a man who had orchestrated a cross-country abduction. "Carson," I said. My voice was low. He smiled. That practiced, tight-lipped smile I remembered from my wedding day. "You look tired." "Sadie, it is a long flight. I wish Jenna had told us you were coming. We would have sent the car for you. I did not want the car," I said, keeping my body between him and Logan. "I want my son." Carson took a sip of his coffee, his eyes crinkling at the corners in a way that simulated warmth but held none. "Let us not be dramatic in front of the boy," he said softly, tilting his head toward Logan. "Logan, why don't you go show Aunt Jenna the shell collection on the patio?" Logan looked at me. "Mom." "It is okay, sweetie," I said, keeping my eyes locked on Carson. "Go with Aunt Jenna for a minute." Jenna, who had been hovering by the door like a ghost, stepped forward. "Come on, Lo," she whispered, taking his hand. As soon as the sliding glass door clicked shut behind them, the temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Carson walked to the kitchen island and set his mug down. He leaned against the marble, crossing his ankles. "You are making a mistake. Sadie," he said, his tone conversational. "Rushing down here like this, it screams instability. Instability." I let out a sharp, incredulous laugh. "You lured my son across state lines under false pretenses. You paid off my parents. You bribed my sister. You are trying to steal him." "Carson." "Steal," he raised a manicured eyebrow. "He is my grandson. I am providing him with an opportunity. Look around you. The schools in Coral Bay are the best in the country. The lifestyle here is safe, secure. Can you honestly say the same for Maplebridge? I provide him a home," I said, stepping closer. "A home where he is loved, not bought. Love does not pay for college. Sadie, love does not open doors." Carson sighed, as if explaining simple math to a slow child. I spoke with Drew. He agrees that a change of scenery would be beneficial. We are just exploring options, evaluating opportunities. You are not evaluating anything. I spat. I saw the email. I know about the paperwork. Carson's expression shifted. The grandfatherly mask slipped, revealing the shark beneath. "Then you know that Hart and Alder filed a petition for temporary time-sharing this morning," he said. "It is already in the system." I felt the blood drain from my face. "You filed?" "At 8 o'clock, he said, checking his watch. Or rather, my attorney did. "We are arguing that since the child is physically present in the jurisdiction and has family support here, meaning me, it is in his best interest to remain for the duration of the summer to acclimate. Judges down here appreciate proactive grandparents. Sadie." especially when the mother is financially distressed. He knew everything. He knew about the credit cards. He knew about the loans. He is not staying, I said, my voice shaking with rage. I am taking him. Now. I would not do that, Carson said, his voice dropping to a warning growl. If you remove him now, it will look like flight. It will look like you are stripping him away from a stable environment. Stay. Enjoy the guest house. We can let the lawyers sort it out over the next few weeks. Weeks. He wanted to trap me here. He knew if I stayed, if I let Logan settle in, the court would view it as consent. He was trying to run out the clock until Florida became Logan's home state. I looked at him, this man who thought he could arrange human beings like furniture. Excuse me, I said. I turned and walked out the front door. Sadie Carson called after me, his voice sharp. Do not walk away when I'm speaking to you. I ignored him. I walked out onto the paver driveway, my hands trembling as I pulled my phone from my pocket. I did not call a lawyer. I did not call my parents. I dialed the non-emergency number for the Coral Bay Police Department. I had looked it up in the motel room. Coral Bay Police, dispatch. A voice answered. My name is Sadie Brooks, I said, forcing my voice to be steady and loud enough for Carson to hear from the doorway. I am at 4 Ocean Drive. I am requesting a civil standby. I am the custodial parent of a minor child, and I am being prevented from leaving with him by a relative who has no legal guardianship. I waited. I could feel Carson's eyes boring into my back. Yes, I have the custody decree with me. I told the dispatcher, no, there is no violence yet. But the individual is hostile. Thank you. I hung up and turned around. Carson was standing in the doorway. His face was a mask of cold fury. You called the police, he hissed. To my house. You left me no choice, I said, crossing my arms. We stood there in a standoff for 12 minutes. Carson pulled out his phone and made a hushed, angry call, likely to his lawyer. I stood by the rental car, watching the patio where Jenna and Logan were looking at shells. Logan waved at me through the glass. I waved back, blowing him a kiss. Finally, a blue and white cruiser rolled silently up the driveway. 2 officers stepped out. One was older, with a graying mustache. The other was younger, female, with her hair in a tight bun. The older officer approached us. Who called it in? I did. I said, stepping forward, I am Sadie Brooks. My son is inside. I am his primary custodial parent. This is his grandfather. He is refusing to let me leave with my son. The officer looked at Carson. Is this true? Sir Carson straightened his spine, putting on his most authoritative voice. Officer, this is a misunderstanding. There is a petition pending in family court regarding the child's residence. My attorney has filed the paperwork. It would be disruptive to remove the boy while the matter is under judicial review. The officer looked back at me. Ma'am, do you have a court order? I reached into my bag and pulled out the certified copy of my divorce decree from Maplebridge. I have my custody agreement, I said, handing it to him. It states clearly that I have primary physical custody. There is no other order. He says he filed a petition this morning. That means a piece of paper was handed to a clerk. A judge has not ruled on it. A judge has not signed it. Until a judge signs an order restricting me, this is my son, and I am taking him home. The officer read the document. He flipped to the back page, checking the seal. He looked at the date. He handed it back to me. Then he turned to Carson. Sir, do you have a signed order from a judge granting you temporary custody or restraining the mother from travel? Carson's jaw tightened. As I said, the petition was filed this morning. The hearing is, so that is a no. The officer interrupted, his voice firm. Carson's face flushed a deep, ugly red. This is harassment. I own this property, and you have the right to ask her to leave your property, the officer said, but you do not have the right to keep the child. Unless a judge says otherwise, the mother has custody. The officer turned to me. Go get your son, ma'am. Thank you, I whispered. I walked past Carson. He did not move to stop me, but the look he gave me was pure poison. You will regret this. Sadie, he murmured, so only I could hear. I will bury you in legal fees. You will not have a dime left to buy him milk. I kept walking. I went out to the patio. Logan looked up, smiling. Are we going on the boat now? Not today, buddy, I said, keeping my voice light and breezy. Mom has a surprise. We are going to a new hotel. Just you and me and Aunt Jenna. We are going to have a sleepover. Cool, Logan cheered. I looked at Jenna. She was pale, her eyes darting between me and the house where Carson was likely plotting his next move. Get his stuff, I told her. We went back inside. The packing was fast and chaotic. I threw Logan's clothes into his suitcase. I found his toothbrush in the bathroom. I grabbed the shark backpack. Jenna moved like a sleepwalker, folding shirts with trembling hands. I am sorry, she whispered to me as we zipped the bag. I am so sorry. Sadie, we will talk later, I said. We walked to the front door. Carson was gone. He had retreated into his study. I could hear his voice booming behind the heavy oak door. The officers waited by their car until I had Logan buckled into the back seat of the rental. You folks drive safe, the older officer said. Touching the brim of his hat, I nodded. I pulled out of the driveway, past the Hale 1 SUV, past the manicured hedges, and through the iron gates. I did not breathe until we were back on the public highway. I did not go back to the motel. It felt too exposed. Instead, I drove 3 towns over, away from the coast, to a mid-range family suites hotel near the interstate. It was generic and brown and perfectly anonymous. When I checked in, I used a shortened version of my name on the form S, Brooke, and paid with the last remaining credit on my emergency card. We need a room on a high floor. I told the clerk, and please, no calls to the room. If anyone asks for us, we are not here. The clerk, a bored teenager, just shrugged and handed me 2 key cards. Up in the room. I immediately went into damage control mode. Okay. Low, I said, turning on the TV to a cartoon channel. Here is the deal. We are on a secret mission. We are going to stay here for a couple of days. Just us. But the rule is, no electronics. No iPad. No phone games. We are going completely stealth. Why, Logan asked, eyes wide. Because we need a brain break, I said, tickling his side. Just swimming and cartoons and pizza. Deal. He giggled. I took his tablet and Jenna's phone and put them in the room safe. I did not want GPS trackers pinging. I did not want Carson's messages popping up on Logan's screen. Jenna sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the wall. You need to call a lawyer, she said softly. A real one, not the one Mom and Dad use for their wills. I know, I said. I spent the next 2 hours on my laptop, searching for family law attorneys in Coral Bay who specialized in interstate jurisdiction disputes and high-conflict custody. One name kept coming up, Dana Keene. Her reviews were stellar, and one client testimonial read, "She is not afraid of the big firms. She fights like a wolverine." I called her office. The receptionist tried to schedule me for the following week. I have an emergency, I said, my voice cracking. Carson Hale has filed for custody of my son. I am in a hotel room hiding with him right now. There was a pause. Can you come in at 2 o'clock, the receptionist asked. I left Logan with Jenna at the hotel. It was a risk, leaving him with the person who had brought him here. But I had no choice. And after seeing Jenna's face at the beach house, the sheer terror she had of Carson, I believed she was done being his pawn. If you leave this room, I told her, holding her gaze, I will never speak to you again. I will erase you from our lives. I will not leave. She promised, tears leaking from her eyes. I will guard the door. Dana Keene's office was in a strip mall, sandwiched between a chiropractor and a dry cleaner. It was humble, cluttered with files, and smelled of stale coffee. Dana herself was a small woman in her 50s with short, spiky gray hair and bright red glasses. She did not waste time with pleasantries. Let me see what you have, she said. I handed her everything, the divorce decree, the printout of my parents' email with the spreadsheet, the notes I had made about the timeline. Dana read in silence for 10 minutes. She hummed occasionally. Finally, she looked up. This affidavit, she said, pulling a paper from a stack I had not seen yet, Carson's filing, which she had pulled from the court docket online before I arrived. What about it, I asked. She spun her monitor around. This is what they filed this morning. It is an affidavit signed by your sister, Jenna Brooks. It states that you explicitly gave verbal consent for Logan to relocate to Florida for the school year to alleviate your financial distress. I stared at the screen. The signature was Jenna's. But the date? The date is wrong, I said, pointing. It is dated 3 weeks ago. Jenna was in Maplebridge 3 weeks ago. She did not sign this then. Dana nodded. Exactly. And look at the handwriting on the date. It is different from the signature. Thicker pen, more pressure. They backdated it, I whispered, to make it look like a plan, and to establish a pattern of consent. Dana added, Carson's lawyer is trying to argue that you agreed to this, and now you are reneging because you are unstable. They want to paint you as erratic. Can they take him, I asked, my stomach twisting. Dana leaned back. Not easily. You are the home state parent. Maplebridge has jurisdiction, but Florida has a loophole. If they can prove an emergency, that the child is in danger or abandoned, they can seize temporary jurisdiction. They might try to argue that your financial situation constitutes neglect. She tapped the spreadsheet I had given her the invoice from my parents. This is our smoking gun, Dana said, a small, fierce smile appearing. This proves it was not a relocation for the child's benefit. It was a transaction. It proves they bought access. Judges hate that. It looks like trafficking. She looked me in the eye. Sadie, we are going to fight this, but you need to be prepared. Carson is going to throw mud. He is going to try to break you. I looked at the woman who fought like a wolverine. He can try, I said, but he already made his mistake. He let me get my hands on my son, and I am never letting go again. That night, the heat broke, and a heavy tropical rainstorm hammered against the hotel window. Logan was asleep in the double bed, exhausted from a day of cartoons and room service pizza. Jenna and I sat on the small balcony, sheltered by the overhang, watching the rain fill the pool below. The only light came from the underwater lamps, turning the water a glowing, eerie turquoise. We had not spoken much since I returned from the lawyer. I am sorry, Jenna said again. It was the 100th time she had said it. Stop, I said. I do not want to hear sorry. I want to hear the truth. Jenna pulled her knees up to her chest. She looked young and small. They told me you were drowning, she said quietly. Mom and Dad, they told me you were in so much debt you were going to lose the house. They said you were too proud to ask for help, and that if I did not do something, you were going to burn out. They told you that? Yes, they said. Sadie is the responsible one, but even she has a breaking point. They said if I took Logan to Florida, it would give you a chance to breathe, to work extra hours, to get back on your feet. I gripped the plastic armrest of the chair. It was the perfect lie. It used my own struggle against me, and the money I asked, the medical bills. Jenna looked down at the dark water. That was just the cherry on top. Carson made it sound so logical. He said, I help you. You help your sister. Everyone wins. I thought I was being the hero. Sadie, I thought I was saving you. I looked at her. I saw the sister I had protected on the playground, the sister I had walked to school, the sensitive one, the one who was so easily led because she wanted so desperately to be useful. They played us, I said, my voice hard. Mom and Dad, they knew exactly which buttons to push. They used your guilt and my pride to sell a child. Jenna began to cry. Silent, shaking sobs. I realized then that she was a victim too. A willing one, perhaps, but a victim nonetheless. I did not hug her. I was not ready for that. I was still too angry, but I reached out and put my hand on her arm. You are going to testify. Jenna, I said. She looked up, terrified. Against Carson, against Mom and Dad. Yes, you are going to tell the judge exactly what they told you. You are going to tell them about the medical bills. You are going to tell them about the backdated affidavit. I cannot. Carson will destroy me. He will revoke the job offer. He will sue me for the debt. Let him, I said. If you do not testify, he takes Logan. And if he takes Logan, I lose my son. I squeezed her arm. hard enough to leave a mark. You have to choose. Jenna, right now, are you the sensitive little sister who needs protecting, or are you the aunt who loves that little boy in there enough to blow up her own life to save him? Jenna looked at the glass door. Where Logan was a lump under the covers, she wiped her face. She took a deep breath, shuddering. I will do it, she whispered. I will tell them everything. Good, I said. I looked out at the rain. The battle lines were drawn. I had my son. I had a lawyer. And now, I had the witness who could bring the whole house of cards down. Tomorrow, we would go to war. The summons arrived by email. A digital ping that sounded like a gunshot in the quiet hotel room. It was a notification of an emergency hearing set for Thursday morning at 9 o'clock in the Coral Bay Family Division. The motion, filed by Carson's legal team, was titled Emergency Petition for Temporary Custody and Prevention of Removal. They were moving fast. They were trying to cement the narrative before I could even catch my breath. I spent the next 48 hours in a state of hyper-focused adrenaline. I was not the terrified mother who had flown down on a whim anymore. I was a project manager, and this was the most critical assignment of my life. Dana Keene, my attorney, turned the small hotel table into a war room. We need a timeline. Sadie, she said, her red glasses perched on the end of her nose. We need to show the judge that this was not a mother interfering with a grandfather's bonding time. We need to show it was a coordinated entrapment. I worked through the night. I printed every text message exchange between Jenna and me from the last month. I highlighted the dates where she mentioned fun, vacation, and just a few days. I found the screenshot Jenna had sent me of the resort confirmation, the one for the cheap hotel they never stayed at. Then came the financial trail. I logged into Jenna's bank account. She had given me her password 3 years ago when I had to help her balance her checkbook, and she had never changed it. I felt a twinge of guilt for the invasion of privacy. But it vanished the moment I saw the transaction history. There it was, a wire transfer dated 4 days before the trip. Sender Hale Holdings, LLC. Amount $5,000. Memo consulting retainer. Consulting. My sister was a nurse, not a corporate consultant. It was the down payment on her soul. But the most damning piece of evidence was yet to come. Dana had told me that Florida was a two-party consent state for recording calls, meaning usually, you could not record someone without their permission. However, she pointed out an exception regarding calls where there is no expectation of privacy, or calls made to parties in one-party states if the recording happens there. But then she paused and looked at me. Wait, she said, you are currently in Florida, but your parents are in Maplebridge. Maplebridge is a one-party consent jurisdiction, if you call them, and they are in their living room, and you are just listening. It is gray, but for the purpose of impeachment, for the purpose of showing their intent. I want you to get them on the record. I sat on the edge of the bed, the phone in my hand. My stomach felt like it was filled with broken glass. I hit the record button on my laptop, then dialed my parents. They answered on the second ring. Sadie Marla's voice was high and tight. Where are you? Carson says you took Logan. He says you are acting crazy. I am not crazy. Mom, I said, keeping my voice level. I am protecting my son. I saw the spreadsheet. I know about the money. There was a silence on the line. Then the sound of Everett clearing his throat. Sadie, listen to reason. My father said, he sounded tired, but there was an edge of desperation in his voice. You are fighting a war you cannot win. Carson has unlimited resources. He can keep you in court for years. He can bankrupt you. He already tried to buy me. I said, or rather, he bought you. We did this for you, Marla interjected, her voice shrill. Don't you see that we are drowning? Sadie, the car loan, the credit cards, your student loans. Carson said he would clear a chunk of those too if this went smoothly. So that is the price I asked, watching the audio waves spike on my laptop screen. My son's home is worth my student loans. Stop being so dramatic. Everett snapped. Just sign what he wants. Let Logan stay for the school year. You can visit. You will have your debts paid. You will be free. If you keep fighting, you will ruin everything for all of us." I looked at the phone. I looked at the red recording dot blinking on my screen. "I am already free. Dad," I said, "because I do not owe anyone my child." I hung up. I saved the file as evidence_coercion.mp3. I stared at the wall for a long time, mourning the parents I wished I had, and accepting the ones I actually did. On the morning of the hearing, the sky was a bruised purple, heavy with rain. I woke Jenna up at 6. She looked like a ghost. Her skin was gray, and there were dark hollows under her eyes. She had barely eaten in 2 days. "You are coming with me," I said. Jenna sat up, pulling the sheet around her. "I can't. Sadie. Carson will be there." "Yes," I said, buttoning my blazer. "He will, and you are going to look him in the eye. He will ruin me," she whispered. "He will pull the job offer. He will sue me for the medical debt. I will be homeless." I sat down on the bed next to her. I did not hold her hand. I needed her to be strong, not comforted. "Jenna, look at me. You are already ruined if you stay on his side. You will be the aunt who sold her nephew. You will never see Logan again, because I will make sure of it. But if you walk into that courtroom and tell the truth, we figure the rest out. I will help you with the debt. We will figure it out together. But you have to choose." Jenna looked at the floor. She was trembling. Finally, she reached into her purse and pulled out a piece of lined notebook paper. It was covered in her frantic, loopy handwriting. "I wrote it down," she said, her voice barely audible. "What happened? In case I cannot speak." "You will speak," I said. "Get dressed." The Coral Bay Courthouse was a monument to efficient bureaucracy. The air conditioning hummed with a sterile, low frequency that made my teeth ache. The floors were polished terrazzo, and the smell of floor wax and stale coffee hung in the air. We met Dana outside courtroom 4B. She looked fierce in a navy suit, holding a thick binder. "Ready?" she asked. I nodded. We walked in. Carson was already there. He sat at the plaintiff's table, flanked by 2 attorneys in gray suits. He looked impeccable. He wore a charcoal suit that fit him perfectly, and his silver hair was brushed back. He looked like a statesman. He looked like the most reasonable man in the world. When he saw me, he offered a sad, pitying nod. Then his eyes slid to Jenna, walking a step behind me. His expression did not change, but the air around him seemed to freeze. He stared at her until she looked down at her shoes. "All rise," the bailiff called out. The Honorable Judge Beverly Hernandez entered. She was a woman in her 60s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. She sat down, adjusted her glasses, and looked at the docket. "Hale versus Brooks." She read, "Emergency petition. Let us proceed." Carson's lead attorney, a man named Mr. Sterling who had a voice like oiled leather, stood up. "Your Honor," he began, "we are here because my client, Mr. Carson Hale, is deeply concerned for the welfare of his grandson, Logan. The child has been enjoying a peaceful, stable visit in Coral Bay, acclimating beautifully to the community. He has made friends. He has been exploring the local educational opportunities." Sterling gestured to Carson, who looked appropriately humble. However, 2 days ago, the child's mother, Ms. Sadie Brooks, arrived in a state of extreme emotional agitation. She removed the child from his grandfather's home without notice, involving law enforcement in a traumatic scene, and has since sequestered him in a hotel. We believe Ms. Brooks is acting irrationally, driven by work-related stress and financial instability, and is unable to make decisions in the child's best interest at this time. We are asking for temporary emergency custody to remain with the grandfather to prevent further disruption to the child. He paused for effect. We also have an affidavit from the child's maternal aunt, Jenna Brooks, attesting that the mother agreed to this relocation and is now reneging on that agreement. Sterling placed a document on the judge's bench. Judge Hernandez skimmed the paper. She looked over her glasses at me. "Ms. Keene," she asked. Dana stood up. She did not use flowery language. She did not use a smooth voice. She used a scalpel. "Your Honor." This is not a relocation. This is an abduction disguised as a vacation. Carson's lawyer jumped up. Objection inflammatory. Overruled, the judge said calmly. Continue. Dana walked to the podium. Sadie Brooks is a model parent. She has raised her son in Maplebridge for 8 years without incident. She has a steady job, a home, and a community. The only instability in this case is the one manufactured by the petitioner. Dana gestured to me. I took the stand. My hands were shaking, but I clasped them tightly in my lap so no one could see. Ms. Brooks? Dana asked. Did you agree to move your son to Florida? No, I said clearly. I agreed to a 5-day vacation. My sister told me she found discount tickets. I packed his bag for 5 days. I sent his homework for 5 days. Describe the events leading to your arrival here. I told the story. I kept it factual. I talked about the missing check-ins, the strange reflection in the photo, the call from the law firm asking about time-sharing. I felt cornered. I told the judge I realized that the people I trusted, my sister, my parents had lied to me about where my son was. I did not come here to cause a scene. I came here because a law firm called me to confirm my son's new address before I even knew he had moved. Mr. Sterling cross-examined me. He tried to rattle me. Ms. Brooks, is it not true that you have significant credit card debt? Yes, I said. Is it not true that your parents have had to help you financially in the past? Yes. So, would it not be reasonable to assume you might want a break, that you might want your son to be provided for by a grandfather with means? I looked him in the eye. Being poor does not mean I do not love my son. I said, and it does not mean I sold him. Sterling smirked and sat down. He thought he had won. He thought he had painted me as the desperate, broke mother who was overwhelmed by life. Then Dana stood up again. Your Honor, regarding the petitioner's claim of financial instability, we would like to submit evidence as to the nature of that instability. She handed the bailiff a stack of papers. Exhibit A. Dana said, an email chain between the respondent's parents, Marla and Everett Brooks, and Mr. Carson Hale's executive assistant. Attached is a spreadsheet itemizing $42,000 in family debts. Judge Hernandez picked up the paper. Her eyebrows shot up. Exhibit B. Dana continued. A wire transfer receipt from Hale Holdings to Jenna Brooks for $5,000, labeled consulting, dated 4 days before the trip. And finally, Exhibit C, a recording of a phone call between Sadie Brooks and her parents, made 2 days ago. Dana played the audio. The courtroom was silent. My mother's voice rang out, tinny and sharp from the speakers. Do not you see that we are drowning, Sadie? Carson said he would clear a chunk of those too if this went smoothly. Just sign what he wants. You will have your debts paid. I watched Carson. He did not move. He did not flinch, but the color had drained from his face. He stared straight ahead at the judge's seal on the wall. Judge Hernandez stopped the recording. She looked at Carson's table. Mr. Sterling, she said, her voice dangerously quiet, do you have an explanation for why your client appears to be negotiating the purchase of a custodial arrangement? Sterling stood up, buttoning his jacket nervously. Your Honor, this is out of context. Mr. Hale is a generous man. He frequently helps family members in need. This was merely support. Support, the judge repeated flatly. Dana cleared her throat. Your Honor, we have one more witness. We call Jenna Brooks. A ripple of surprise went through the room. Mr. Sterling whipped his head around. Carson finally turned, his eyes narrowing into slits. Jenna stood up from the back bench. She looked like she might faint. She walked to the stand, her heels clicking loudly on the terrazzo. She took the oath. Her voice trembled on, I do, Jenna, Dana asked gently. You signed an affidavit stating that your sister agreed to this relocation. Is that true? Jenna gripped the railing of the witness box. No, she whispered. Please speak up, the judge said. No, Jenna said, louder this time. She looked at me, then at Carson. She took a deep, shuddering breath. Sadie never agreed. I lied to her. I told her it was a vacation. I told her we were going to a discount resort. Why did you do that? Dana asked. Because I owed money, Jenna said, tears beginning to spill down her cheeks. I had surgery last year. I had $30,000 in medical bills. Carson found out. He called me. He told me that if I helped him get Logan to Florida, he would pay off the debt. He offered me a job, and the affidavit Dana asked. Carson's lawyer gave it to me at the beach house. Jenna sobbed. He told me it was just a formality. He said I had to sign it or the deal was off. I did not read it all. It was partially blank when I signed it. I just wanted the debt to go away. She wiped her face with the back of her hand. My parents told me Sadie was drowning. They told me I was saving her. But I was not saving her. I was selling her out. The courtroom was absolutely still. The silence was heavy, suffocating. Jenna looked at the judge. I am sorry, she said. I just want my nephew to go home. Dana sat down. Mr. Sterling stood up, but he looked defeated. He half-heartedly tried to object to the witness's credibility, but the damage was nuclear. Judge Hernandez raised a hand to stop him. I have heard enough, she said. She shuffled the papers on her bench, stacking them neatly. The sound was like a thunderclap in the quiet room. She took off her glasses and looked directly at Carson Hale. Mr. Hale, she began, her voice icy. This court exists to determine the best interests of children. It is not an auction house. Carson stiffened. The evidence presented here suggests a calculated, financial conspiracy to circumvent the jurisdiction of another state and to undermine the custodial rights of a mother. To use a child as leverage for debt relief is not only morally repugnant, it is legally actionable. She turned to the court reporter. The emergency petition is denied with prejudice. She turned back to me. Ms. Brooks, you are free to return to Maplebridge with your son immediately. She then looked at Mr. Sterling and counsel. You will inform your client that any future filings in this court regarding this child had better be backed by pristine evidence of genuine need, or I will sanction you and your client so heavily you will need a payment plan for the next decade. Do I make myself clear? Crystal clear. Your Honor. Sterling mumbled. This court is adjourned. The gavel banged down. I let out a breath I felt like I had been holding for 3 days. My knees shook. Dana reached over and squeezed my hand. We did it, she whispered. I looked across the aisle. Carson was standing up. He did not look at his lawyer. He did not look at the judge. He looked at Jenna. Jenna was still sitting in the witness box, freezing under his glare. Carson smoothed his tie. He walked toward the exit. As he passed me, he paused. Enjoy the flight. Sadie, he said. His voice was devoid of emotion. It was dead. He walked out. I went to the witness box. Jenna was shaking so hard her teeth were chattering. Jenna, I said softly. She looked up at me, her face a mask of misery. Is it over? She asked. We are going home, I said. I helped her stand up. She leaned on me, heavy with exhaustion and shame. We walked down the aisle, past the empty tables, past the bailiff who held the door open for us. We walked out into the lobby. The rain had stopped. Through the high windows, a shaft of sunlight was piercing the clouds. I checked my phone. I had a text from the airline. Flight 492 to Maplebridge on time. I texted my parents one word. Done. Then I blocked their numbers. I looked at Jenna. She was staring at her phone, likely waiting for the notification that her job offer had been rescinded, that her life was imploding. Let's go get Logan, I said. We walked out of the courthouse, leaving the legal wreckage behind us. I had won. But as I stepped onto the sidewalk, I knew the war wasn't over. Carson Hale was wounded, and wounded predators were the most dangerous kind, but I was dangerous too. Now, I knew their playbook, I knew their price, and I knew that my price was infinite. The sunlight in the courthouse parking lot was blinding. It bounced off the hoods of the cars and the wet pavement, creating a glare that made my eyes ache, or maybe my eyes ached because I had not slept more than 3 hours a night for the last week. I stood by the rental car, the engine ticking as it cooled. Jenna was already in the passenger seat, her head leaning against the window, eyes closed. She looked like a balloon that had lost all its helium deflated, wrinkled and small. I walked to the back door and opened it. Logan was sitting in his booster seat, playing a game on my phone that I had finally unlocked for him. He looked up, his blue eyes bright and unbothered. "Did you finish the boring meeting?" "Mom," he asked. "Yes, baby," I said, reaching in to squeeze his knee. "The meeting is over. We are going home. To Maplebridge. To Maplebridge," he cheered, a small, innocent sound that cracked my heart open. "Yay, I miss my Lego set. The ones here are boring." I closed the door and leaned my forehead against the cool metal of the roof. I took a deep breath, inhaling the smell of rain and exhaust. I had won. I had the court order in my purse. I had my son. I had humiliated Carson Hale in a court of law. But I did not feel triumphant. I felt hollow. It was a strange, scooped-out sensation, as if the adrenaline that had been sustaining me had burned away all my internal organs, leaving only a shell. I looked at my hands. They were steady now, but I knew that the people who had done this to me, my parents, my sister, my ex-husband's family, were not strangers I could just walk away from. They were woven into the fabric of my life. They were in Logan's DNA. I got into the driver's seat. "Let's go," I said. I drove us to the airport. I returned the rental car. I bought 3 tickets on the next flight out. Putting it on a credit card I would worry about later. As the plane lifted off the tarmac, banking over the turquoise water and the white roofs of Coral Bay, I looked down one last time, somewhere down there, in a mansion that smelled of lemon verbena. Carson Hale was probably drinking a scotch and plotting his next move. But I was up here, and I was not coming down. The return to Maplebridge was a shock to the system. The air was 20 degrees cooler, and the sky was a familiar, comforting gray. The trees were just starting to turn, flashes of orange and red signaling the end of summer. I dropped Jenna off at her friend's house. She could not face going back to my parents', and I was not ready to have her in my guest room. We did not say much. She just hugged her duffel bag and looked at me with those sad, apologetic eyes. "I will call you," she whispered. "Take care of yourself." I said. I drove home. When we walked into our little bungalow, the silence was different than before. It was not empty. It was waiting. I turned on the lights. I smelled the stale coffee I had left in the pot days ago. I threw it out. I opened the windows. "We are home. Lo," I said. Logan ran to his room. I heard the crash of plastic bricks hitting the floor. It was the best sound I had ever heard. 3 weeks later, I stood in another courtroom. This one was familiar. It had scuffed linoleum floors and wood paneling that had not been updated since the 1970s. It was the Maplebridge family court. Drew was sitting at the table across from me. He looked uncomfortable. He kept shifting in his seat, adjusting his tie. He did not look like the heir to the Hale fortune today. He looked like a man who had been caught with his hand in the cookie jar. My local attorney, a calm man named Robert who had handled my original divorce, stood beside me. We were there to formalize the emergency order Judge Hernandez had issued in Florida and to modify our parenting plan to ensure this never happened again. Drew's lawyer was trying to do damage control. "Your Honor, Mr. Hale maintains that he was not the architect of the Florida trip," he said. "He was under the impression that Ms. Brooks had consented to the vacation." The judge, a man who had known my father for years and had seen me grow up, looked over his glasses at Drew. "Mr. Hale," the judge said, "did you or did you not know that your father intended to file for custody in Florida?" Drew turned red. He cleared his throat. "My father keeps his own counsel," Drew said, his voice quiet. "He approached me about the idea. He said Logan would have better opportunities there." "And what did you say?" the judge asked. I said I would not stand in the way if Sadie agreed. "But you did not ask Sadie if she agreed, did you?" "No, Your Honor." The judge sighed. He looked disappointed. "We are entering a new order today," the judge said. "The terms are non-negotiable. The new parenting plan was a fortress. It stated, in bold black ink, that Logan's home state was, and would always remain, this state. It required that any out-of-state travel required the written, notarized consent of both parents, submitted 7 days in advance, with a full itinerary including flight numbers, hotel addresses, and landline contact numbers. It also included a clause I had insisted on any third-party interaction involving overnight stays, including with grandparents, must be approved in writing by the primary custodial parent. That was the Carson clause. I looked at the document. It was restrictive. It meant I could not just hop in the car and take Logan across the state line to the amusement park without emailing Drew. It meant my life had to be planned and documented. I lost the spontaneity of a normal life. But as I signed my name at the bottom of the page, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. It was armor. It was a shield I could hold up whenever my parents, or Drew, or anyone else tried to pressure me. I cannot. I would say, "It is a court order," after the hearing. Drew caught me in the hallway. "Sadie," he said. I stopped. I did not smile. "What is it?" "Drew, I am sorry," he said. He looked at his shoes. My dad. He gets an idea in his head, and he just bulldozes. "I should have called you. When he told me he was sending the plane for Jenna, I should have called you." "Yes," I said. "You should have." "I am done with him," Drew said. "I told him to go to hell. I am not taking his allowance anymore. I am going to figure this out on my own." I looked at him. I wanted to believe him, but I knew that money had a gravity that was hard to escape. "Good luck, Drew," I said. "For Logan's sake. I hope you mean it." The hardest part was not the court. It was the silence from my parents. For the first week, I had blocked them, but I knew I could not keep them blocked forever. They were my parents. They were flawed, weak, and selfish, but they were the only grandparents Logan had on my side. But I could not go back to the way things were. I could not be the dutiful daughter who fixed their problems and absorbed their criticism while they sold my son behind my back. I sat at my kitchen table one night, a glass of wine untouched beside me, and drafted the email to Marla Brooks. Everett Brooks, subject: The future mom and dad. I am writing this because I am not ready to speak to you on the phone. I am not sure when I will be. What happened in Florida was not a misunderstanding. It was a betrayal. You conspired with a man who has treated me with nothing but contempt for a decade. You leveraged my financial struggles I have because I am raising your grandson without help to negotiate a payout for yourselves. You put a price tag on Logan's residency. $42,000. I have the spreadsheet. I have the recording. I know exactly who you are now. I am not going to keep you from Logan forever. That would punish him. And he loves you. But things are going to be different. You are not allowed to be alone with him. You are not allowed to pick him up from school. You are not allowed to take him on trips. We will see you on holidays. For short visits. At my house, if you criticize my parenting. The visit ends. If you mention Carson Hale, the visit ends. If you ask for money, the visit ends. I am not the responsible one anymore. I am the mother of this child, and my only responsibility is to him. Do not reply to this email. I will reach out when I am ready. Sadie. I hit send. I stared at the screen. I expected to feel guilty. That was my programming, to feel guilty whenever I set a boundary. But the guilt did not come. Instead, I felt a cool, clean clarity. I had redrawn the map of my family. I had built a wall. And for the first time in my life, I was standing on the right side of it. Jenna moved into a studio apartment in a town 20 minutes away. It was above a bakery, and she said it smelled like yeast and cinnamon all day. She got a job at a local urgent care clinic. It paid half of what Carson had offered her. But it was honest money. She was working double shifts to pay down her medical debt, which she had consolidated with a consumer credit agency. She started therapy. That was the condition I had set for us to speak again. 2 months after the Florida nightmare, she asked if we could meet for coffee. I chose a place with a playground attached. I wanted Logan to be occupied, but I wanted him in my line of sight. Jenna was waiting at a metal table when we arrived. She looked different. She had cut her hair into a bob, and she was wearing scrubs. She looked tired, but it was a good tired, the tired of someone who is actually living their life, not performing it. "Hi," she said, standing up nervously. "Hi," Aunt Jenna Logan yelled, running over to hug her legs. Jenna froze. looking at me for permission. "It is okay," I said. Nodding, she bent down and hugged him, closing her eyes tight. "I missed you, buddy. Go play on the slide. I need to talk to your mom." Logan ran off, oblivious to the tension. We sat down. Jenna had bought me a latte. She remembered exactly how I liked it: oat milk. No sugar. "How are you?" I asked. "I am okay," she said. "The job is hard. My feet hurt, but I'm paying my bills. Mom and Dad are furious with me. By the way, they say I betrayed the family by testifying. They would say that." I said. Jenna traced the rim of her cup. "I am sorry. Sadie, I know I have said it 1,000,000 times, but I wake up every morning feeling sick about what I almost did. I felt so trapped. And Carson made it look like a door opening. Predators are good at that." I said. "They make traps look like doors." "I am working on it," she said. "My therapist says I have a fawn response, that I try to please people to stay safe. I am trying to learn how to say no." "That is good." I said. "Can we do this again?" she asked, her voice small. "Just coffee." "I want to be in his life. Sadie, I promise I will never take him anywhere. I will not even take him to the bathroom without asking you." I looked at her. I saw the sister who used to make me laugh until soda came out of my nose. I saw the sister who had stood up in a courtroom and destroyed her own golden ticket to save my son. Trust is a heavy thing. "Jenna," I said, "once you drop it, it shatters. We have to glue it back together, piece by piece. It is going to take a long time." "I have time," she said. "Okay," I said. "We can do coffee?" "Next Sunday." Jenna smiled. It was a watery, trembling smile. But it was real. "Thank you." Over the next 6 months, my life settled into a new rhythm. It was a rhythm of my own making. I joined a support group for single parents. We met on Thursday nights at the community center. It was a room full of people who were tired, overworked, and fiercely loving. We shared resources. One dad fixed my leaky sink. I helped a mom with her resume. I realized that this was what real villages looked like. They were not made of wealthy grandfathers who bought influence. They were made of people who showed up, armed with casseroles and socket wrenches, expecting nothing in return. I stopped looking over my shoulder. I stopped waiting for the other shoe to drop. I began to understand that revenge was not about making Carson Hale suffer, though I certainly hoped he was miserable. Revenge was about making him irrelevant. It was about building a life so full, so solid, and so joyful that his money and his power could not find a single crack to seep through. Logan was happy. He was playing soccer. He was getting B's in math and as in art. He talked about the beach trip less and less, fading it into a memory of shells and ice cream, the darker undercurrents lost to childhood oblivion. That was my victory, his oblivion. Then came the email. It was a Tuesday evening in November. The rain was beating against the windows. A cozy, rhythmic sound. Logan was at the kitchen table, drawing a battle scene between a robot and a dragon. I was clearing out my inbox when a subject line caught my eye. Subject inquiry regarding Carson Hale / Hart Alder filings. My heart skipped a beat. I hesitated, my cursor hovering over the text. Then I clicked. Dear Ms. Brooks, my name is Elena Rosales. I am an investigative reporter with the South Florida Sun-Sentinel. I am currently working on a piece regarding the misuse of jurisdictional statutes in high-conflict custody cases involving high-net-worth individuals. In the course of my research into court filings in Coral Bay, I came across the transcript of your hearing before Judge Hernandez. The details regarding the consulting fees and the backdated affidavits were striking. I have reason to believe that Mr. Hale has utilized similar tactics with 2 other families in the past 5 years to secure custody of grandchildren from estranged partners of his children. In those cases, the parents did not have the resources or the evidence to fight back, and they lost their children. I am writing to ask if you would be willing to speak with me. On or off the record, your story could be the key to exposing a pattern of systemic abuse of the legal system. I understand if you want to close this chapter. But if you are willing to talk, I am listening. I sat back in my chair. The kitchen seemed to tilt slightly. 2 other families. I imagined other mothers, standing in lobbies, being told their children were not there. I imagined them receiving the spreadsheets. I imagined them breaking under the pressure, signing the papers, believing they were doing the right thing, only to lose everything. I looked at Logan. He was humming to himself, shading the dragon's wings a fierce green. He was safe. He was mine. I could delete the email. I could stay in my fortress. I had my court order. I had my peace. Why poke the bear? Why invite the chaos back in? But then I remembered the motel room. I remembered the feeling of being small and poor and powerless against a machine that wanted to crush me. I remembered Jenna's face when she confessed. I had escaped, but only because I had gotten lucky. Only because Jenna had a conscience. Only because I had found the email. What about the ones who didn't get lucky if I stayed silent? Carson Hale would do it again. He would find another loophole. He would buy another judge or another relative. He would keep collecting children like they were antique rugs. I felt a fire kindle in my chest. It was not the rage of the victim anymore. It was the resolve of the survivor. I realized then that my definition of revenge had been too small. Revenge was not just living well. Revenge was tearing down the weapons so it could never be used against anyone else. I pulled the keyboard closer. Dear Ms. Rosales, I received your email. I paused. I looked at my son. I am not interested in fame. I am not interested in money. But I am interested in the truth. I will talk to you. I will give you the recordings. I will give you the emails. I will give you the transcripts. I have one condition: my son's name is never mentioned. His face is never shown. He stays out of the spotlight completely. If you can promise me that, then I am ready. Let's burn it down. Sincerely, Sadie Brooks. I hit send. The email swooshed away. Mom, Logan asked, looking up. Who are you writing to? Just a friend, I said, smiling at him. Someone who likes stories. I stood up and walked over to him. I kissed the top of his head. Are you done with your drawing? I asked. Almost, he said. The dragon is winning. I looked at the green dragon, fierce and breathing fire. Yes, I said. I think he is. I walked to the window and looked out at the rain. The streetlights of Maplebridge reflected on the wet asphalt. It was not a tropical paradise. It was just a small town in America, but it was my town. And for the first time in a long time, I was not just defending it, I was ready to fight for it. The future was open. It was uncertain, but it was mine. Thank you so much for listening to Sadie's story. It has been a journey through betrayal, fear, and ultimately, the fierce, unbreakable love of a mother. I hope this story resonated with you and perhaps reminded you that even when the odds are stacked against you, the truth is a powerful weapon. I would love to hear from you. Where are you listening from today? Have you ever had to fight for someone you love against a system that felt rigged? Please share your thoughts in the comments below in English. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more tales of justice, resilience, and the complex drama of family life, please subscribe to Revenge Stories. There are many more chapters to open and many more secrets to uncover. Until next time, stay strong.